Hello friends, James Stevenson back with an unusual video. This one is a special report. No, this one is by popular demand. So Jason Calacanis, legendary Silicon Valley investor, angel investor, startup founder, tweeted a couple of days ago an interesting tweet. I'll share that right now. We'll come back to Loki's bed in a minute. But you can keep an eye on him while we do this. So here's the tweet from Jason. What's the best tool for making stunning charts? How do people convert the generic charts in Google Sheets or Excel into good-looking ones? Is there software for this, or do designers do it manually? So I was fortunate enough to be tagged in this by not one, but several people saying, hey James, how do you do it? And I answered I do it mostly with Excel charts. Occasionally Flourish.studio for like an animated chart. You can't really do that in Excel. On rare occasions a Google Sheet. So Stevenson Indicator lives in a Google Sheet because it's just easier to update that way. Google Sheets has a function you can type in to a web-based spreadsheet that'll just refresh the stock data every day. So that makes that easy. And I said the key to making Excel charts look good, besides experience, and I've got 20 years of experience working in Excel professionally, is to change most of the default settings. But which ones do you leave, and which ones do you always change? I will explain that to you in this video. So thank you to the few people who tagged me in those tweets. I'm going to walk you through an example right now using a live spreadsheet. I did promise that we would check in on Loki's bed. Loki, what are you doing, buddy? You okay? Yes? Love you. Alright, so you can keep an eye on Loki. He's right underneath me in this view. I'll tilt this camera over just a little bit so we don't cut off his nose. Alright, and I'm just going to show you how I made this chart right here. So I tweeted this out a couple of days ago. This is a comparison of the revenue generated by Ford, GM, and Tesla since 2016. So for each of these automakers, you can clearly see how much revenue they reported each year. And there's a trend here, and it's that Tesla's revenue goes up every year. It started from a very low level back in 2016 when they weren't selling any Model 3 or Model Y vehicles. But now they are selling lots and lots of those. Folks, Tesla sells 4 vehicles. Ford and GM each sell dozens of models, right? Okay, so that's why I thought this would be a good visualization to make, but it was not easy. Like if you want to make this chart in Excel, you've got some work ahead of you, and I will walk you through those steps for how to do this. So here's the data that that's on those charts. Let's see what happens if I just ask Excel to make this chart for me. A lot of people don't know this. You can just drag a box around the data that you want to chart and then punch the F11 key on your keyboard, and Excel will make you the chart instantly. Bam! There you go. That is the chart that Excel will give you by default. And it's instantly recognizable. When you see a chart like this that somebody has tweeted out that looks just like this, you know you're looking at amateur Bush League work. Like, you're looking at a chart made by somebody who does not know their way around Excel, or they were phoning it in, or they were in a huge hurry, or they don't care, or they're a college intern who just learned Excel last week or something, right? Do not leave your charts formatted like this. You've got to change stuff. What's wrong with it? Well, the background is white, bright white. That's annoying to people who set their Twitter to dark mode, or their whole computer to dark mode, to blast them with this much white. This is the wrong way of laying out the data. It's broken up like a UPC code. It's interrupting these long bars with short bars, and you can't easily see what the trends were, right? Here's how I laid out this data. Ford over here, GM in the middle, Tesla over here. This is very easy to just glance at and see what the trends are. This sucks. This is dumb, right? There's too many breakpoints over here. The default font is dumb. There's a line around the chart that you don't need. It hasn't figured out what years go under each of the sections. The legend is at the bottom. The font is too small. Everything about this is wrong, pretty much. So I am going to fix it for you. And the way that I fixed it was to use a little bit of creativity. This may look like it's all one chart here, and it's intended to, but it's actually 3 different charts that I've laid side by side by side to give the appearance of being one chart. But they are all the same scale. Okay, so how do you do this? Step 1 is to drag a box around only the first one of these that you want to make the chart on the left out of. So here's forward. I do need to include 2022, 12 trailing months, Q3. 2022 has not ended as of press time, the day that I'm recording. It's late October 2022, so the final 2022 numbers will be different than these for each of these automakers. The Tesla number will be a lot bigger than this one, but we're going to use the numbers that we have. The important thing is not to compare a partial year against full years. That would be a chart crime. So in this case, I'm including Q4 of the prior year. Q4 of 2021 is included in that number and in this number, so that this one has 4 quarters worth of revenue in it. Okay, so I'm going to hit F11 on this, and you'll still get just as bad looking a chart, but there's only the forward data on it, so that's a little bit better. All right, what do we want to do? First, we want to go to the home menu. We want to change the font from Calibri to Century Gothic, which looks way better. And we're going to up the font size to, I don't know, 12. Let's make this title bigger. That's probably better. Let's make all the font color like this light gray color. That'll make more sense later. I'm going to right click on the chart. I'm going to go to select data. I need to get the years in underneath the bottom of the chart here. So the data is right. I need the horizontal category x-axis values to be these numbers right here. So I'll hit OK on that. And now I have the years underneath the bars. Okay. Going to right click on this, go to Format Data Series. Why has it picked a gap width of 219%? That's way, way, way too much. We're going to make it 30%. That's a lot better. Next, for the format, we don't need a border around these boxes, so no line is the correct answer. And then for fill, what looks sophisticated and professional is to choose a gradient fill. So you want a gradient fill that's linear instead of radial or rectangular or the other dumb ones. And you want an angle on your linear gradient of 90 degrees or 80 or 100 or whatever. And you want to get a light color and a dark color that are close to each other. So let's take this medium gray and let's take this a little bit darker gray. There we go. That looks a lot better than the defaults that Excel gave us. Okay, what's wrong with this y-axis? There's too many zeros on it. There's too many markers shown across here. This is way too many numbers to get the idea. And there's nothing telling us what this data is. So we're going to fix all that. We're going to right-click it, go to Format Axis. First, I'm going to change the display units to thousands. When I do that, it's going to lop off the 3 zeros that are on the right and the comma. And it's going to automatically label that thousands. We're going to go back and change that in a minute. The next thing I want to change is this 20,000 major units. That's too frequent. I want it to be less frequent. Give me 50,000 instead. And when I did that, it upped the top of my y-axis maximum to $200 billion, and none of our data comes anywhere close to that. So I'm going to truncate this down. I'm going to not truncate. I'm just going to reduce it to $160 billion. Now when I do that, it decides it wants to give me even $50 billion increments down to negative $40 billion. Well, that doesn't make any sense because revenue can't be a negative number. So we're going to set the minimum to 0 manually, which is right. Now I'm going to fix this thousands over here because that's not what this is. It's not thousands. I mean, it is thousands of millions, but it's billions, right? So the revenue in billions is what this ought to say. And that's not a big enough font for people to see it for sure. So I'm going to raise the size of this so that people know, hey, we're talking about revenue in billions, which means this font needs to be a little bigger also. These fonts could probably stand with being a little bigger, which means this title must be a lot bigger. Okay, this is looking better. Alright, this is a pretty good looking chart now, but I can't lay them side by side when it's still on this tab. Oh, and I do need to remove the box around it because that would trip us up later. So format chart area, no line for the border. And then for fill, I'm going to pick no fill as well. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is create a place for this chart to go besides on this tab. So I'm going to go to this Sheet 1 tab over here. This, as you will recognize, is a totally blank, untouched Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to go to View. I'm going to uncheck Grid Lines over here. I'm just going to select the entire workbook. I'm going to go to the Home tab to Shading. I'm going to pick a dark color that isn't black, so close to black, but not all the way. So there's still a little bit of not lights out black to this. Okay, so now I have a place for this chart to go. I'm going to right-click on the edge of the chart and go to Move Chart. I'm going to change this to be an object in Sheet 1, and I hit OK. So there it is. Now I need to make it the right size. So I'm gonna, actually I'll cut it, and then I'll drop it on cell B2 by pasting it. I'll drag it down. Yep, that looks pretty good. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do with this y-axis is I don't like the $dash over here. So I'm going to go into the number menu. I'm going to change that $dash. So this is your positive format before the first semicolon. This is your negative format before the second semicolon. After that, second semicolon, I'm just going to put quote, quote, and I'll hit add. There. Now it went away. People know that this number at the bottom is 0. They can see 150, 150. This must be 0, right? Delete, delete, delete. If it is not necessary, get rid of it, right? This is a good design principle to keep in mind. Okay, so now I have my template that I can use to make the other two charts. This is a lot closer to what I want them to look like than the Excel default settings are. So I'm going to copy this chart, and I'm going to paste it in cell J2 so it'll be lined up at the same height. So the vertical on this is going to match up exactly to the chart that's on the left of it because I pasted that one in cell B2 and I pasted this one in cell J2. Okay. In keeping with the theme I just mentioned, delete, 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 what do I not need on this new chart that I just dropped in? I do not need to repeat this label, and I do not need to repeat these numbers. Why? Because I've got the horizontal grid lines running across these that tell you that they are the same scale. So I don't have to repeat the scale. I can just literally hit the delete key on my keyboard, and away that goes. Okay, now these bars are skinnier than these bars because this chart, even though the charts are the same size, this chart has a labeled y-axis and this chart does not. So this one has expanded to fill across the entire space. I need to fix that by shrinking this one down so that these bars are the same width as these bars visually. Okay, now I need to fix my data. This is not Ford anymore, it's GM. And if I click on the bars and right-click them, I can go to Select Data. Now don't make the mistake of editing here in the top chart data range field. If you do that, it's going to screw up all of your formatting that you just worked so hard on. Instead, come down to the series and edit that. Change the series name from Ford to GM, and change the series values, the data, from the Ford data to the GM data. And click OK. There you go. Now, it has decided to make these blue, and I like blue, but this is too light. I think it's distractingly light and taking away from kind of the professional design look of this tableau of charts. So I'm going to go to Format Data Series, and I'm going to manually fix the gradient. So I'm going to pick Gradient Fill here, and it's defaulting me to linear and 90 because it knows that I like those. But it's giving me exactly the same stuff as Ford, and I want to break those up visually. So I am going to make this blue, but I'm going to make it this blue as the lighter blue. And for the other blue, I'm going to go even darker. I'm going to take that blue and see how that looks. Looks okay. All right. You know, this Ford label doesn't seem like it's over the middle. So we have 7 time periods here. It ought to be centered over the 4th bar. So I'm going to drag this over and drop it right over the 4th bar. This one is centered over the 4th bar already. So those are lined up better now. And you've probably guessed what we're going to do next is copy this GM chart, which is closer to what we want our Tesla chart to look like than this Ford chart is because of the y-axis and the size of the chart that we shrunk down. So I'm going to copy it, and then in cell Q2 right here, I'm going to paste it. I'm going to change the title here from GM to Tesla. I'm going to click on the bars, right-click, go to Format Data Series, and I'm going to change the gradient. So instead of it being these blues, I know in my example it was white. Let's make it red just to change things up a little bit here. So we'll do a light red, and we'll do this darker red. And then I have to change my data because those are not Tesla's numbers. Select data. So again, we go edit the series and not the total chart data. I'm going to change the series name from GM to Tesla. I'm going to change the series values from the GM values to the Tesla numbers and hit OK. And the years are still right, and it decided to change my gradient on me again. Thanks, Tesla. So I'm going to go back to Gradient Fill, and there it is. It remembered what I wanted. There we go. What else does this chart need? Can I tell what it is? Yes, it's revenue in billions. It's labeled over here for me. These are the Ford numbers, these are the GM numbers, these are the Tesla numbers. The difference is pretty clear here. Ford and GM have not been growing their revenue over the past 7 years, and Tesla has been growing their revenue every year for the past 7 years. Okay, what else do I need here? Just a couple of finishing touches. Down here, I'm going to say what my source data is. I'm going to say source company earnings releases. Now the default font here was black, so I need to change that to be my gray color. Calibri 11, I can probably take that down to 10 and make it italic. Source company earnings releases, and then I need my watermark. Why do I need a watermark? Because once I have tweeted this out, it kind of becomes accessible to lots and lots of people who can copy it and paste it who knows where, Reddit, Facebook, anywhere else, right? And then the people who see the chart might wonder who made this. Well, if I watermark my chart, those people don't have to wonder who made this chart because they'll be able to see right on the chart who made it. And that's too small. What else do I need to change here? Oh, so I do want to take the lines off the x-axis format because I don't need a horizontal line on this. Oh, it's a grid line as well, so it's not getting rid of it. All right, no line. I clicked on the wrong thing then. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. So with that, I will check back in on Loki and see how he's doing. There he is. He's changed positions and curled back up again. And I will outro and say that's my video for today. If you've enjoyed today's video, click the like button. It's free to click the like button. You could also subscribe to my channel if you want to catch more videos like this one. I do a lot of videos about Tesla if you were just here for the Excel charts tutorial today. And if you find value in what I'm doing and feel like supporting me, there's links in the video description to Patreon or to join my YouTube channel. And a special thank you to my executive producer, Kathy Kitchler, who supports my channel at the highest support level. And I'll see you in the next one.